You're goddamn right.
As a result of a video by Soretta Yuki that I was linked last night, and some of the comments generated as responses to that video, I felt it was relevant to throw this together quickly. Relevant videos and the commentary in question are included below. Now, to begin with, I don't consider myself explicitly an MRA, nor do I consider myself explicitly anti-feminist. I consider myself to be anti-bigot and anti-authoritarian, and I unfortunately see a significant amount of both those tendencies amongst feminists. At best, if you need to have a label for me, you could best describe me as egalitarian. Now, part of what that video entailed, and some of the comments that were generated by it, were specifically about the perceived, very explicitly anti-feminist stance that the men's human rights movement and that many MRAs have. And a principal component of that stance to me, or at least something that leads to that stance in many cases, is that there have been numerous very public instances especially over the last few years, where feminist groups have chosen to picket and protest and attempt to shut down any non-feminist-led discussions of issues that are most generally very specific to males in our Western society. There has also been at least one recent drive, I believe it's actually two, to have any organized form of men's rights advocacy branded as a hate group. Now, one of the primary examples that I think is relevant to males is the high suicide rate. For instance, there was a discussion hosted by Dr. Warren Farrell in Toronto in 2012, where feminist groups picketed the event and attempted to form a human barricade, preventing any of the guests from entering to hear the speaker. The other example that to me is a very personal example is male victims of domestic violence, intimate partner violence, and sexual violence. And even if feminist statistics are in fact the most accurate and reasonable statistics possible concerning these types of victimization affecting males, then I have to ask, why do feminist groups refuse to allocate and advocate for services that would be in proportion to their own statistics at a minimum? Now, this ignores the fact that there is a substantial body of evidence that indicates that the levels of victimization experienced by males in those categories is very close to parity to that experienced by women. And if that's the case, then feminism is really dropping the ball in providing services to a group of victims that is at least as large or is very similar in size to the group that they already provide services to. I mean, as an example, Alberta has 44 domestic violence shelters for women, one of which allows males to enter the facility if they are under 12 and accompanied by their mother. There is currently no services whatsoever for male victims of domestic violence whatsoever. Now, the reason that this is an issue for me is actually twofold. If we use the most commonly cited colloquial definition of feminism being about equality, then feminism is failing to ensure either equal services or services equal to the needs of a victimized group. The backside of this problem is that if feminism does not have a mandate to provide services to male victims based on the other commonly and completely contradictory colloquial definition that describes feminism as solely concerned with women's issues, then there is no reason for feminism as a larger ideology, or for feminist groups specifically, to actively and aggressively oppose and protest those services being provided to male victims by any other group. Now, I've included examples below of feminist groups that have protested or attempted to disrupt events that were marketed as either critical of feminism or explicitly as events concerning men's issues. Now, if feminism, whether we consider it specifically as an ideology or within the context of specific feminist groups, defines itself as being about the equality of men to women, or more accurately, of women to men, then there is no reason why feminism should be demanding that no other groups participate in gender equality advocacy for men, for any other group out there. And to be fair, feminism certainly is not the only ideology that advocates for equality. So it's either failing to address the issues of men or is not willing to undertake them. And frankly, it needs to step aside, and it's refusing to do so. So, I mean, that is a principal reason to me why there tends to be a very strident anti-feminist bent to a lot of men's rights advocates' rhetoric and conversation. I don't know if that helps any. If it doesn't, I'm sorry. That's what I've got. To anybody that has already been here, done that, or hasn't been, like, subscribe, whatever, follow me on Twitter. I'm not here for some sort of validation based on your behavior. So, give your hell, folks.